Okay, I think we're live, talking to our Facebook folks. I'm just going to turn our music down a little bit. That was a little bit of Aphex Twin, so Vasifia's Bouncing Ball. I think that was Aphex Twin, for those that don't know about them. I'm getting a bit of feedback here. Here, let me just take this off here. Da da da. See what's happening. Let's see. Okay, let's try this. We're just doing a little bit of experimentation, or at least I am. I set things up a little bit differently and then proceeded right into to do an interview, so that's not always a good idea. But anyway, I have a couple of people with me today because I've been doing some Airbnb hosting over the summer, and so I decided that it would be fun to interview a couple of the young men that came through, and they were willing to go along with me. So this is Sriram and Harsha. And I'm just learning how to say the names. I'm just terrible at this. I'm so sorry. But anyway, so tell me a little bit about where you've both come from and how you managed to get here. We're on Vancouver Island, mid-island, actually in Lantzville. For those that are around other places around the world, it's not really important to know exactly where it is, but it's just a little bit north of Nanaimo. So tell me a little bit about yourselves.
On August 18th, I just reached the Vancouver, and just few days we just seen the Stanley Park in the Vancouver and the Cypress Mountain and a few places in the Vancouver. On Thursday, we just decided that to visit Whistler or the Vancouver Island. So we just came across the Vancouver through ferry. We just stayed one night in Victoria and just started to Tofino. And these are the 5 stops we just made to Tofino road trip. The first stop is Coombs, and the second stop Cathedral Grove, and the third stop is Port Alberni. In between Cathedral Grove and Port Alberni, we just stopped near the Airbnb stay of Jonah, and just we're having an interview with her right now.
Well, you guys have been busy. You've been traveling around quite a bit.
Being busy on roads isn't new for us. Like, we've been doing this from 5 years. We mostly done it in India. After we moved here, he stays in Toronto and I live in Vancouver. He just came on a vacation and we thought doing a one-day trip, like doing 2-3 days road trip would be better than visiting places that are much near and coming back home every night.
That's a really good idea. So that's one of the good things about Airbnb, because there are places along the way that you can stay. So this would be one of those places. Have you been staying in Airbnbs along the way, or?
Of course, it's everywhere. And for us, traveling is not just about looking new places. It's about meeting people, right? All the Airbnb hosts we have been with, it was just an awesome experience.
So you're saying, before you came here, you were with another Airbnb host that was into music?
Yeah, that was into music as well. And
he's from Zimbabwe Academic School, something, in Duncan.
He's actually from Zimbabwe. He married a woman that's from here. They both set up a Zimbabwe Music Society in Duncan. It's like around a 1 hour drive from Victoria.
Right.
Yeah, they have a beautiful farm and we lived in their barn. It was a beautiful experience.
Oh, that's amazing. So you stayed on the farm?
Yeah, we stayed on the farm. And in the morning we went tomato picking. There were some other kids as well. We had a Very great time there.
And I noticed your T-shirt. It's, it's the classic.
Yeah,
folks can
people
see
call
on-
it the Coombs Classic. I think.
I like black, so we thought not to take the both T-shirts in the black.
Good. So you won't be twins.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than being twins. I remember that when I was a kid, you know, my friend would come to school and she'd be wearing the same thing, and we'd just go like, no, stay away from me. Don't come near. It looks like we've planned this out. But goats on the roof, or I should say it's goats on roof,
Yeah.
but it's goats on the roof. Actually, they do have goats on the roof in Coombs. And I guess that's one of the big attractions. They have they have grass growing on the roof, and so they just keep them up there.
Yeah.
So anybody can have a goat, but this particular one is pooping on the side, and so you don't want to be a tourist walking underneath that goat. But that's a classic bumper sticker. A lot of people have that on the island.
Like, even they have some certain rules, no littering on the roof, so it had to do it the sideways.
That's right. You got it. Those goats are well trained.
Yeah, totally.
It's amazing how you can train a goat to, yeah. Anyway, we won't go too much into that. Now, today you're going to be going off onto a new adventure as well, sort of up the same way but a little bit farther. So tell me where you're going to be going.
Initially, we'll be stopping at Port Albany. There is a off-road race scheduled at 1 p.m. today. We'll be having a look at that. Then we'll be stalling at the Valley River. There's some Lovelock Bridge over there where people in Lovelock lock the grill and throw away the keys. I just wanted to take a look at that. Then we'll be heading to Ucluelet, and then we'll be moving to Tofino.
You've
And-
got a big day ahead.
Yeah.
And I have to say that normally the joke is that this is the wet coast because usually it is raining all the time, except this summer we've had a drought.
Yeah.
And so this is the first day of real rain. And you're definitely going to get the West Coast experience, the wet coast. Now, you're going to be also seeing something that I didn't even know existed, which
That's
is
a plane crash in Tofino. Like it was crashed around in 1970s.
1940, I think.
Yeah, 19th century.
way back there, last century.
Yeah, it's in
1945.
Yeah, it crashed in 1945. It's a 15-20 minute hike to the crash site, and we googled it, and the images were very good. We wanted to do the hike and get a view.
I think if you can see my screen there, I think that
Yeah,
that's the hike.
That's the hike.
That's a long hike.
Yeah.
You guys are up for it?
Of course.
Okay. Well, I've got it on the screen so the audience can see in case they ever feel like coming to see the Canso plane crash site. Let's see. This, I just picked this at random. This is Tofinohiking.com. Just, you know, I may as well give credit to the site here. I just happened to look it up, and this is what I found. So if you're ever interested in coming to Vancouver Island, looking at a plane crash and going for a hike, it's a nice combination. So, okay, so tell me a little bit about what you know about Tofino. Where are you going to be going?
My main intention to going, visiting Tofino is I wanted to see the raw Pacific Ocean. The place I live, Vancouver, the water it's a bay, right? The water is all cut. There are no big waves, and it's not the raw Pacific. The Pacific we all study about, the deepest ocean, the vast ocean. I wanted to have a look at that, so we'll be probably getting onto a boat, go whale watching. That's
Nice.
the plan. So.
Right, so you're only going to be there for a day and a half, but it sounds like you've got lots planned. So for those that don't know, Tofino is quite world renowned for this. It's got surfing. That's the word I'm looking for. People actually surf there, and we do have our own Long Beach, which not to be confused with the California Long Beach. It's just a very long beach, and it's quite beautiful. It's nice and sandy, so I've recommended that you go there. We're sort of doing a bit of a tourism thing here. So everybody come to Vancouver Island, but not at the same time. So tell me a little bit about who you are and what your background is. We talked about it a little bit last night, but tell the audience a bit about what you've been doing.
I'm just studying the supply chain management in Toronto. I'll finish my course in couple of months. I'm just thinking to move to Vancouver because he's my best friend and just want to stay with him. Maybe in month of December or January. We just want to explore new places like this, the road trip and everything with him.
Favorite time pass is watching travel videos. When we have no option, like when we can't travel, we like watch people traveling.
Travel videos. So when did you get into that? What got you into travel videos?
We just started seeing the travel videos in mid of 2017. So we just went to India in 2017 December, and we just traveled few places over there. The first place we both traveled is Goa, and this is the second place we just traveling the road trip. So just expecting more places to travel around the world.
Well, you find out that way if you get along with each other when you travel together.
Yeah, we're mostly trying to get along with the world. Like meet new people, study people. Every person is different, right? Every character is different and they're character driven.
Thanks for working that in. Nice. So, you guys are very character driven. I think I can sense from each of you that you have a lot of integrity and a lot going on besides just traveling together. I think that you really do have an interest in people and the places that you're seeing. Now, you were born in India and raised there for how long?
I've been in India for 24 years.
And I've been like 22 years. 2 years of gap.
And what made you think of Canada as opposed to any other country in the world?
The calmer life, the people. We studied about that as well. We've been into it for like 3 months, and we thought if the education is good anyway and the people are much better. And a lot of people who've been in Canada, they told me that the people, they met the best people here. The way the people speak to each other, the way they mingle. And the only promise I got before moving to Canada that you will be missing home, but not as much in other countries. You can make a home in Canada very easily.
You're still part of the Commonwealth. Well, you guys aren't. Thankfully, you don't have to be part of the Commonwealth anymore. So but I guess there is that sort of sense that because you're an English speaker and we do have sort of that same, there's a bit of a convergence there of the history between India, Canada, and some of the other outposts of England from that last century. Well, that would be the century before.
The before century, yeah.
Yeah, but very colonial.
Yeah, very colonial.
So, have you ever seen movies that depict India from a British point of view? Have you ever had an interest in that, like The Jewel in the Crown, that sort of thing?
We are used to seeing India in an Indian perspective rather than the English perspective.
So you've never actually seen a movie?
If you suggest, I'll surely watch it today or tomorrow after my trip's done.
That's a good idea. It might, I don't know what kind of emotional response you'd have from it, but The Jewel in the Crown is I think it's a very well done movie because it actually talks about some of the issues about colonialism. Doesn't see it as being a positive thing.
Yeah.
It's actually very historically based, if anything can be, it's from some perspective. So, what is it that you do for a living? What's your interest, or what are you looking forward to be doing? Because you're still quite young. What would you like to be doing?
So, I just recently completed my studies. Right now, I'm working at Domino's. So I'm waiting for my work permit. Once my work permit is here, I'll be looking for a full-time job. I'm mostly looking, at the the imports and exports process. I wanted to do more in that. So logistics probably.
Okay. We talked about that a little bit last night. So I'm not totally sure about all of that, but I'm sure it's a dynamic industry. I mean, it sounds like it's something that is changing all the time.
Yeah. Everything's changing now, very fast.
Yes, and for someone my age, it's hard to keep up. It's hard enough if you're young.
Yeah. My suggestion: never keep up. Live the life, the old style.
Now you have family back in India. You've come from. What size family would you have had? Brothers, sisters?
Like in India, joint families is a thing. Like joint families are the families where all the cousins stay in the same house. While coming to my family, I would say that ours is a joint family, but we don't stay in the same house. Everybody got located in different places of our state, but if there is any occasion, any marriage, and even if it is a holiday, everybody they just give it a try to meet all others. They like being together, like for all the festivals and all. I have some pictures. If you'd like to see, I can show them.
Bring them out.
I have them.
We don't have you joined in on the network, but show it to the camera.
Sure.
And I think that's what we're really missing in our culture, because everybody's sort of gone their own way. We don't have that same family culture in Canada, and I think that's to our detriment, really. So, pictures of the family.
Why don't you tell you about your family in between?
I just after completion of my course, I'm just thinking to explore Canada, and we have a small business in India, and just take over the business, and with the help of my father. That's my plan right now. Just thinking how long it goes in Canada, and just want to move to India. That's my plan.
Oh, so you're planning to go back to India?
Yeah, maybe just stay for here 2 or 3 years, and just go over there and just look into my business. Yeah.
Nice. Well, because it's your family business,
Yeah,
so
family
that makes
business.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, carrying that on. You found your pictures?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just the third generation right there.
Oh,
And the
that's
other two
great.
generations, they quite didn't fit in the frame. So
Oh, I can imagine. How many siblings do you have?
I have a sister, a younger sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
An older brother.
So you're from a pretty small family, both of you.
Yeah, like I'll explain how a family thing works in India, right? So my grandfather, he has 3 younger brothers, an elder sister, and 2 younger sisters. Like there are 7 siblings of him, and each of them has a family, right? They have 4 to 5 children each, and end of the day, they're all together a family again. That's how the system works.
The system, the family system.
The family system.
And speaking of that, do you find that I don't know how you've been able to compare Canada, but there are a lot of people that have stress, anxiety, problems. Do you find that there's more of that here? And do you think it's because of the way that families work in India as compared to here?
Yeah, I noticed that people with stress and anxiety, they spend like 2 to 3 days in a hospital here, and that never happens in India. But I don't know if it is related to the family and or work, but I find out felt it was weird, like spending 2 to 3 days in a hospital for stress. Stress is the most common thing in India for us. Everything is stressful. Get on the road, there's traffic everywhere. You're stressed. Get into work, there's boss. You're
Right.
stressed. So, yeah, it was kind of new to me for people visiting doctors for stress and anxiety, and now the herbal thing also going on.
Well, I have a theory about that, and I think it all goes back to this idea of supporting one another, and that goes back to community again. The fact that we don't have these same connections, because if you have those connections, then it feels as though you have that support. And sometimes in Canada, people are quite isolated, either because they've come from another country or because they've been separated from their family for some reason. But it's very stressful.
But with all the social networking and around, they can find ways, right? They can join some communities, they can join some clubs, and why not? Tomorrow we can start a group called Isolated People Group. And people come and they're no more isolated. That'll be an end of it. You know. See, that's the main point. Meet people, greet people, and you'll be happy. You're not isolated anymore when you're talking to people.
That's what I love about being able to interview people from around the world, because you get so many different perspectives and you realize that, we are one, and yet we've been raised in these different ways. But I think the thing that has changed in the last probably 100 years is this idea of mobility, that for instance, you would normally just be in India and working with your dad all the way through. You wouldn't actually have come to Canada in the interim. So it must be hard for the parents to, for your dad in his business. Was he nervous that you wouldn't come back?
Oh no. While he's sending me to Canada, he just asked me twice or thrice, are you really interested to go to Canada, or you want to just stay here? I just said I just want to see different life from India, what's going on around the world. I just said to him, just couple of years or 3 years, I'll come back again and check the family
Nice.
business.
Yeah, I think that's, I just think of it as a parent and how you really want your kids to travel and you want them to see the world, but on the other hand, you want them to come back.
Not only the parental thing, but I talked to his father. Harsha, before moving to Canada, was an active part of the business. So once he moved out, even that slot was filled by his father, and it was quite a load of work for him.
Well, and is your brother involved?
Oh no, he's staying in US. He's working over there. So my father want at least one kid in home. So that's the reason he wanted me
You
to
get
stay.
back here. That's really cool. And what does your sister do?
My sister, she's a chartered accountant. She's into accounts and the numbers.
Just a bunch of brainy people. That's working with numbers. I would get everything all backward, I think, but it's hard enough to do this. Right before the show, I had it all set up, and then there's always one little thing, and so there are people that have more linear thinking, and I think they're suited to certain jobs like that. I don't know if I'm suited to this job, but at least the part about interviewing people, I absolutely love it. I just think it's great. And so tell people what you thought when you came to the Airstream Studio. I'm always really interested in people's impressions, because some people think it's very odd.
It's not odd. It's quite beautiful, actually. Like, while we were heading away to you, I just told Harsha that you'll see an Airstream wagon there, and the door is right adjacent to that, as you sent me the message. So he was like, "There's an Airstream there." Like we follow some travelers. There are some travelers named after Hopscotch Globe, Hopscotch Globe, and Sia and
Christian.
Christiana. They have
Hopscotch Globe?
Hopscotch the Globe.
Okay.
It's the brand they develop. They travel all around the world, and they live in an Airstream. And he was all like, "Come on, we're seeing an Airstream today." And end of the day, see, we are being interviewed in the same Airstream. It's quite exciting, actually.
Well, this is a different kind of Airstream because
Yeah.
it's gutted and it's being used for a different purpose. But I absolutely love it when I take it to an event because, you know, it's vintage, it's 69. And when it was all shiny and polished, it looked quite beautiful. So we'll get it back to its former glory. But so this couple that you were talking about, do they have a website?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
It's hopscotchtheglobe.com.
Hopscotch the Globe.
Yeah.
So people can take a look. Well, I know that Wally Byram, who made the first Airstream, he started the company. He would take people on adventures. He would go. He went from Cape Town to Cairo, I think. He took a bunch of people in the 50s.
That's the southern tip of Africa to the Central Africa, right? Okay.
Yes, it was, but it's bizarre because these trailers are really meant to be rugged, and you would see them going through the Serengeti, you know, all these areas that you just go, you can't take a trailer there. But apparently they could. So that's one of the things I love about Airstreams is they're very solid, except for where it's leaking, where I put in my... I decided that I would put in a skylight sort of a thing instead of having a roof vent. It used to be an air conditioner, and I did that work myself. You can tell because it's leaking.
Yeah, you were telling that even your father was into Airstreams.
Yes. Yeah. And as a kid, it was just so funny because we'd go to a campground. It was really embarrassing, but I just got used to it. And he would go over and he would knock on the door of the Airstream. And then he'd say, Johnny, come with me. I came along later in life. He was in the military, so he spent a lot of time away. He was in the Second World War and the Korean War. And so I was the first kid that came along where he could actually go camping and do all this stuff. So I got the benefit of that. But I didn't see it as a benefit when I was a kid. I just, because in every single Airstream, right at the front, they have the magazine rack. And it always has Airstream magazine in it. And so as an 8 or 9-year-old kid, I didn't want to be hearing all about all the different, accoutrements. So I would sit there and read Airstream magazine. So I got really, it's like I was indoctrinated by my father. But he never owned an Airstream. It was always his dream.
But you do.
So
It's like...
I feel like this is a nod to my dad. He's no longer around, but I have picked up on his interest.
He didn't own an Airstream, but his daughter is owning an Airstream.
That's right. There you go. And doing something completely different. He was a photographer, so that I'm sort of combining the two things in my Airstream.
We'll call it developing, right?
Yes. I think we want to honor our parents in whatever way we can. And I didn't have parents around for very long because I came along so late in life. My mother died when I was 24, and so I think you value it much more when you've lost your parents. You sort of go, parents are pretty important in your life, and value them, and you guys do.
Yeah.
It's cool. Do you write home, or do you email?
Writing is thinking of the past, right? It's just FaceTime and
Yeah, FaceTime. Yeah, I still like to use my fountain pen. That's how weird I am. But I also have some strange things in the Airstream. We were noticing the rotary dial phone over there.
Yeah. I love the rotary phones.
Tell me about your rotary phone. You just have to tell me that story.
The rotary phone we had it in our village. And my grandfather, we had the analog phone back home, and in the village we had the rotary phone. He was like, we have like a committee which collects milk from all the villagers, and they'll be sending it to the dairy farm. So he wanted me to call them and tell them that we are not sending any milk today because we had all the cousins come in. We need the milk in the home. And I was like 7-8 years. I was pressing the raw trip inside as well. Nothing's happening. And I didn't want to tell my grandfather, as he would say that I'm not that strong enough. He's actually a farmer. He wants me to be all fit, but I never done that.
Right.
So my grandmother came and explained that you need to. It was a 5-digit number, and it took me like 10 minutes to practice and do it. But I love the sound, castring.
Yeah. It has a very distinct sound. And when I was we lived in a military camp for a very short time. We didn't even have the dials or anything. You call up and you'd say 231 ring 1.
Yeah.
That would be, you just tell the operator.
That's like we had pages in India that work the same way.
Well, it's good to know that some things carry on, because that was kind of a nice thing. You could talk to the operator. It became very disconnected when we had the dial, but now tell me where you're going to go after Tofino. You're going to be going home? Is that?
We'll be heading back to Vancouver, but Harsha, he wanted to go to Whistler as well, so we'll be probably coming back to Nanaimo. We'll be taking a ferry. Based on if time permits, we'll be heading to Horseshoe Bay, from where we can go to Whistler, or else we'll be heading down to Vancouver.
Whirlwind. And you don't have time to take in the Blues Fest in Nanaimo, but that's on for another couple of days, actually till Sunday. But
he's moving to Toronto in 2 days, so
gotta go. You gotta catch that plane. Okay, well, this has been really great. I really appreciate you guys putting up with my request to interview people at every given turn. It's so much fun to meet people and to have this as a bit of a memento of your trip.
Thank you very much. We would like to thank you, especially Joanna. This is our first time being live on a radio. It's quite exciting, actually.
Okay, well, we'll see how it all turns out. We'll see how exciting it really is.
Thanks for the room. It's very beautiful.
Oh,
quite beautiful.
Thank you. I'm really glad that you came to stay, and I encourage other people who've thought about doing Airbnb, whether it's being a host. That's the interesting thing about this interview, because I'm a host, you guys are guests, and I had only learned about Airbnb through friends, and so it's interesting to do it firsthand. I haven't actually stayed at an Airbnb myself. But it's a great phenomenon, because it doesn't matter. You can just kind of be with other people. You don't have to actually have a separate area necessarily. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful place in the world. But it is, as you say, a way of connecting with people in various areas.
If you are, the other travelers, if you really want to listen to us, we are still amateur travelers, but always prefer Airbnb. Like, you'll be meeting new people, and forget hotels. That will just be you, and you'll be getting everything here anyway. You'll be have some cozy beds. You'll be getting Wi-Fi. You have a great bath. That's all we need, right? To just sleep for some time, get refreshed, and move on.
Right. I have a lot of people that either miss ferries or need to get ferries early in the morning. So, and speaking of which, I'm going to be getting ready for somebody else to come. But I've enjoyed so much talking to you guys, and I'm going to say goodbye to the audience now, and hopefully we'll have this for posterity for you. Okay, I'm going to bring up a little bit of who is playing right now. Oh, we still have Aphex Twin. I have a radio station that I have too, and so I just sort of tune in every once in a while and bring it up. And so we've got Aphex Twin. We're going to end off with that.